The edge of silence. The sky above was gray. Heavy clouds moved slowly like they were mourning something. On top of a broken tower, high above the empty lands, stood an alien girl. Her silver hair danced in the wind. Her eyes, once bright, now looked cold and tired. Her name was Zelaria. She didn't cry. She had cried for days, weeks, maybe even months. There were no more tears left. Only silence. That's why she came here. To the place called the Edge of Silence. It was once a sacred temple, now just ruins, and she had come to end everything. Below her was nothing but a deep mist. No one knew what was under it. Some said it was bottomless. Some said it was a gate to another world. Zelaria didn't care. She just wanted the pain to stop. Her soft feet stood at the very edge. One small step, and it would all be over. Her lips moved, barely a whisper. "I'm sorry." Then she heard a voice behind her. "Don't." She froze. That voice didn't belong to any alien she knew. It was deep, calm, and human. Zelaria turned her head slightly. Behind her stood a man, dressed in old explorer's gear. His clothes were dusty, and a scar crossed his cheek. His hair was short, brown, and messy. But his eyes were calm, kind, and full of something she hadn't seen in a long time. Understanding. "Who are you?" she asked, confused. The man didn't move closer. He just stood there, giving her space. "My name is David," he said. "I was exploring these ruins, saw you standing here." "You shouldn't be here," Zelaria said. "This place is forbidden." David smiled a little. "Funny. That's what people say about me, too." She looked back at the mist. "Go away." "This is none of your business. It is now," David said. "Because I can't just walk away while someone's about to give up." Zelaria's fist tightened. "You don't know me. You don't know what I've done." "You're right," he said. "But I know what it feels like to stand where you are." Zelaria turned to him fully now. "What do you mean?" David slowly walked forward and sat down on a broken stone near the edge, but not too close. "Years ago," he said, "I stood on a high bridge. My world was falling apart. I lost someone I couldn't save." His voice became softer. "I thought ending it would stop the pain, but someone stopped me." Zelaria looked at him, eyes narrowing. "And what did they say?" David smiled, sadly. "They said, if you leave, the world loses something good it didn't even know it had yet." Those words hit something inside her. She turned away again, eyes on the mist. "But I'm not someone good." "Maybe not right now," he said. "But maybe that's because no one ever gave you a chance to be." Zelaria didn't know what to say. Her people had called her a curse. Her power had hurt others. She was feared, hated, and abandoned. No one had ever said she could be anything else. Until now. David stood slowly. "Whatever happened to you, maybe it wasn't your fault. Maybe you were just born different. But that doesn't mean your story should end here." He walked closer, slowly, until he stood beside her, but not too close to scare her. "This place is quiet," he said. "But silence doesn't have to mean death. Sometimes silence is where healing starts." Zelaria looked down at her hands. They had once burned a field during a peace ritual. Her energy, wild and unstable, had caused fear among her people. Even her own parents had turned away from her. That pain, that loneliness, had led her here. And yet, this human didn't flinch, she whispered. "Why do you care?" David looked at her with honest eyes. "Because someone once cared enough to stop me. Now it's my turn." The wind blew stronger now. The mist below swirled. Zelaria looked at the edge again. Then took one step back. She was still shaking inside. The pain didn't vanish, but now she wasn't alone. David smiled gently. "Good. Let's not fall today." Zelaria gave a tiny nod. For the first time in a long time, someone had spoken not with fear, but with hope, and it made her want to listen again. the voice that pulled her back. Celeria had always hated silence. It reminded her of empty rooms, of waiting for someone to knock on a door that would never open, of voices that once called her name with love, but now only whispered it with fear. And yet, here she was, standing next to a human, both wrapped in silence. She had stepped back from the edge. Her toes no longer dangled over death, but inside she wasn't sure why. The human, David, didn't say anything right away. He just stood beside her, calm as the wind. No fear, no judgment, just presence. That was new. Most people looked at her like she was a weapon waiting to explode. But this man, he looked like he'd already survived his own explosion. Finally, he broke the silence. "You ever heard how stars are born?" he asked. Celeria blinked, confused. "What?" David smiled gently. "They begin as dust, alone, scattered, but then pressure, chaos, gravity, and from that something beautiful is made." Celeria frowned. "Are you calling me dust?" "I'm saying even dust can light up the sky." For a second, her lip almost curled into a smile. Almost. Then her eyes grew heavy again. "You don't know what I've done?" David lowered himself onto a smooth rock beside her, hands resting on his knees. "I know shame. I know guilt," he said. "And I know the voice inside that whispers, 'You're better off gone.'" Celeria looked at him. "You've heard that voice too?" He nodded. "I still do, some nights. But I've learned something. Those voices lie." The alien girl sat down slowly, keeping a few feet of space between them. Her silver hair moved with the wind like a whispering flame. "I didn't mean to hurt them," she said quietly. "But my energy, it got out of control. At the peace gathering, I panicked, my heart, it cracked open." "What happened?" he asked softly. "I burned a holy tree," she whispered. "It was alive, ancient, sacred. I didn't mean to, but I couldn't stop the surge inside me." David didn't flinch. She continued, her voice trembling. "My father called me a mistake. My mother told me to leave. I haven't seen my people since." David's hand curled into a gentle fist. "So they feared what they didn't understand. They hated me. They were wrong," he said. "You didn't fail because you were evil. You failed because no one taught you how to carry what you were born with." Celeria looked down at her hands, slender, elegant, and dangerous. "You think I can still be something?" she asked. David didn't answer with words. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small metal badge. It was dented, old, but had an Earth military emblem. "I used to wear this proudly," he said, "until one mission went wrong. I froze. A kid died." His voice was low. "I never forgave myself. I walked away from command, from Earth. I came to this sector to disappear." He turned to her. "But today I'm here for a reason." Celeria whispered, "To save a broken alien girl?" David's voice was gentle. "No, to remind her she was never broken." A long silence followed. This time the silence didn't feel empty. It felt full, like something unseen had started to grow between them. Celeria stood up slowly. Her legs were still weak, but she didn't shake. She looked out over the edge again, not with the same hunger for death, but with a strange curiosity. "If I stay," she said, "what happens next?" David stood beside her. "Then we walk away from this edge, together." "To where?" He shrugged. "No idea, but I've got food, a tent, and ears that actually listen." Celeria finally smiled. Just a small one, but it was real. "All right, human. I'll walk with you." David turned with her. The two walked down the steps of the ruined tower, one slow step at a time. And high above them, the wind no longer howled in mourning. It sang. The scarred soul beneath the skin, they walked. Through the silent forest ruins, birds didn't sing here. Even the wind moved carefully, like it didn't want to disturb the ghosts that lived between the broken stones. Zelaria walked beside David, her arms crossed tight against her chest. Her silver skin shimmered faintly in the dim light. Her face was calm now, but her eyes still held storms. David, walking beside her with his worn backpack and tired boots, didn't speak much. He just matched her pace, like he knew silence was still safer than words. But Zelaria noticed something. He kept rubbing his left wrist, again and again. She didn't ask, at first, but after a while, curiosity won. "What's wrong with your wrist?" she asked softly. David hesitated. Then slowly he pulled up his sleeve. A long scar, pale and jagged, ran across the skin. It wasn't a wound from battle. It was too clean, too personal. Zelaria stopped walking. "You tried," she whispered. David looked at the trees. Yes, she stared at the scar, her heart thudding. "Why?" He didn't lie. "I lost someone. My younger brother. He was a mechanic, worked on colony ships. There was an accident. I blamed myself." Zelaria said nothing. "I was trained to protect," he continued. "I had muscles, medals, but I couldn't save the one person who looked up to me." He looked at her now, and I thought that made me useless. Zelaria looked down. "That's how I felt too. My people said I was born to bring balance. But when I burned the holy tree, they said I was cursed." David sighed. The universe has a cruel habit of punishing the gifted before teaching them how to use their gifts. She sat on a flat stone, fingers gripping the edge. Every night I'd feel it, the power inside me. It wanted to burst out. But I had no teacher. No one showed me how to control it. David nodded. "So you were punished for surviving something no one trained you for?" Zelaria's voice broke. "I never wanted to hurt anyone, but my own people feared me. The looks, the whispers, the loneliness. It all got louder than my own thoughts." David sat down beside her, not too close, just enough to let her feel he was there. "I was stationed on a frozen moon once," he said. "There were soldiers who thought I was a failure. I stopped eating, stopped talking. I once went outside without a suit, wanted the cold to finish me." Zelaria turned to him, shocked. "Why didn't it?" "A boy saw me through the glass. He banged on the walls like his life depended on it. The look in his eyes, it pulled me back." He smiled faintly. "Sometimes all it takes is one person, one voice, one moment." Her voice was quiet. "So that's what you were doing on the tower?" David shrugged, just passing the favor forward. They both fell silent again, but this time it wasn't heavy. It was comforting. Like two people sitting beside a fire, neither of them could see, but both could feel. Then Zelaria slowly unwrapped the cloth around her own arm. A soft glow shimmered from her skin. Blue lines, like circuits or veins of energy, ran down to her palm. They pulsed gently. This is the power inside me," she said. "It's wild. It listens to emotion. If I feel fear or anger, it burns everything." David leaned forward a bit, studying it without fear. "Looks like a gift to me." "Not to my people," she said. "They only see danger." "Then they're blind," he replied. "Because I see someone who feels too much, not someone who's too dangerous." Her throat tightened. No one had ever said that to her before. Ever. She quickly covered her arm again. "We should keep moving. There's an old sanctuary deep in the ruins. It was where outcasts used to go to find peace." David picked up his bag. "Then that sounds like our next stop." Zelaria stood and started walking ahead, but turned slightly over her shoulder. "Thank you," she said softly. David tilted his head. "For what?" "For seeing me." And then, for the first time since she'd been cast out, she didn't feel like a curse. She felt human. Whispers in the ruins. The deeper they went, the stranger the ruins became. Trees twisted around, broken pillars. Glowing vines crept along cracked walls. Strange carvings, half words, half symbols, covered the stone paths beneath their feet. Zelaria walked in front, her hand gently brushing the ancient markings. David followed, eyes alert, boots crunching softly on the dust. "These ruins," she whispered, "used to be a sanctuary for the voiceless ones." David raised an eyebrow. "The voiceless," she nodded. "They were outcasts, those born with forbidden powers, or those whose minds heard too much. They came here to find peace, or disappear." David looked around. "Seems peaceful enough, in a spooky, cursed way." Zelaria gave a small smirk. "That's the ruins accepting you." "Maybe." The path narrowed between two walls of black stone. Strange energy pulsed softly beneath the surface, barely visible, like the ruins were alive, or dreaming. As they walked farther, David noticed something strange. Every time Zelaria passed a carved stone, it lit up faintly with blue light. But when he touched it, nothing happened. "Is that normal? Is that?" he asked, watching her fingers trail across a glowing symbol. She paused. "No. These stones are supposed to be long dead, silent. Maybe they remember you," David said, her eyes narrowed. "Or they want to warn me." They stepped into an open chamber, round, roofless, filled with standing stones. At the center was a giant cracked crystal, dark and lifeless. Vines crept over it like a web. David walked toward it. "Careful," Zelaria warned. He touched the surface. Nothing happened, but then she stepped forward. The instant her foot touched the stone floor, the crystal hummed. A soft, low vibration. Not loud, but deep. It echoed in their chests, like a forgotten voice trying to speak. David stepped back, eyes wide. "Okay, that's new." Zelaria's arms began to glow faintly, her energy reacting like it was waking up. The lines under her skin lit up with blue fire, even though she didn't try to activate them. "I don't like this," she said. Then came the whisper. It was not from David. It was not from Zelaria. It came from the air, the stones, the very bones of the ruins, 1,000 voices all speaking in unison. "Daughter of the Skyfire, why do you return?" David's hand went to his sidearm. "Did that crystal just talk?" Zelaria's voice trembled. "No, not the crystal, the place." She walked to the center. Her eyes glowed softly as the whispers grew clearer. "You were cast out, abandoned, forgotten, yet your light was always ours." David stood beside her. "It's talking to you, not me." She turned to him. "Because I'm one of them." He blinked. "One of what?" "One of the voiceless. I wasn't just born with strange power, I was born from this place." She reached forward and touched the cracked crystal. Boom. A wave of blue light exploded from it, not harmful, but powerful. The carvings on the walls lit up like stars. Images appeared, holographic memories from long ago. David and Zelaria watched, frozen. They saw alien children being trained. A tall woman with the same glowing lines as Zelaria taught them to control their energy. They saw peace, until one image changed everything. A burning tree. The same tree from Zelaria's past. She stepped back, her breath caught. "That's my nightmare." David stared. "No, that's your history." The vision zoomed in. Zelaria as a child, screaming as energy burst from her, lighting the tree on fire. But the woman from before stepped forward, shielding her, calming her. The others didn't run. They helped. "That's not how it happened," Zelaria whispered. David looked at her. "Are you sure?" "No," she whispered, eyes wide. "This is the truth. My people erased it. They told me I caused a disaster. But here, they tried to save me." The whispering voice returned. "You carry the light of balance, not destruction. Come home. Come deeper. Learn who you are." Then the chamber's floor shifted. A hidden staircase opened beneath the crystal. David stepped back. Let me guess. This is the part where we die or get answers. Celeria looked down the dark stairs. Both, maybe, David smiled. Then after you, Princess Spark. She smirked nervously. Stick close, human. And together, they stepped into the heart of the ruins where secrets slept and destiny waited to awaken. Monsters of the past. The stairs creaked as they stepped down, deeper into the heart of the ruins. The air changed. It was colder, heavier, like something ancient was breathing below. David's hand never left the grip of his sidearm. His instincts screamed that they were not alone. Celeria walked ahead of him, her steps cautious but steady. The glowing lines on her arms pulsed brighter the further they went, reacting to something unseen. She looked calm on the outside, but inside her heart beat like a war drum. At the bottom of the stairs they entered a giant underground chamber. It was dark, until Celeria's presence lit everything. Blue fire danced across the walls. Old machines blinked to life. Strange alien statues stood in a wide circle, facing a massive stone door in the center. Carvings covered the door, symbols of stars, war, and a winged figure with glowing hands. David whispered, "What is this place?" Celeria stepped forward, staring at the winged carving. "This is the Cradle of Balance, a place built for those born with powers like mine, to learn to control." As if responding to her voice, the stone door slowly began to open. But something else woke up too. From behind one of the statues came a low growl, not mechanical, not a recording, alive. David raised his weapon. "We've got company." A massive shape moved in the dark, 4 legs, armor-like skin, eyes that burned with yellow hate. It had no mouth, only a smooth metal mask fused to its face and a glowing red symbol carved into its chest. Celeria gasped. "That's a sentinel, an old protector of the sanctuary. But this one's corrupted." The creature roared, charging. Forward, David fired. 3 clean shots. They bounced off the thing's chest like pebbles. "Run or fight," he shouted. Celeria's body lit up with energy. "Both!" She raised her hands. Light burst from her palms, hitting the beast square, in the side. It roared and crashed into a pillar, shaking the entire chamber, but it got up. Stronger, angrier. "It's feeding on my power," she realized. "It was built to train us, to push us to the edge. But something rewrote its purpose." David grabbed her arm and pulled her behind cover. "Okay, Magic Girl, think fast. How do we break a corrupted training bot?" Celeria gritted her teeth. "It wants me to lose control. It feeds on my fear. If I panic, it grows stronger." The sentinel smashed through stone, its claws dragging across the floor like metal blades. Sparks flew. Dust filled the air. David pulled a knife. "Then don't give it fear, give it focus." She closed her eyes, breathing deep. The glowing lines on her body calmed. The energy around her stopped flickering. It flowed like water now. Steady. Quiet. She stepped out. Her voice was clear. "I'm not afraid of you." The sentinel paused. Its eyes blinked. She walked forward slowly, her hands raised. "You were made to teach, not to destroy. I command you, remember your purpose." For a moment, nothing happened. Then the red symbol on its chest flickered and turned blue. The creature trembled. The metal mask cracked, but just as Celeria reached her hand out, a surge of corrupted energy struck from deep within the room. Something darker still controlled the sentinel. It screamed and lunged again. David tackled Celeria out of the way just in time. They hit the ground hard. Her power burst out like a shockwave, slamming the sentinel back. David covered her, shielding her head from falling rubble. And in that moment, when she thought he might be crushed to save her, something inside her snapped into place. Not broken. Balanced. She rose with a calm she never had before. Her energy, no longer wild, no longer afraid. Celeria floated slightly off the ground. Her voice echoed. Enough. She sent out a single pulse, a smooth, bright wave of light, and the sentinel stopped moving, completely frozen. Then it bowed. The red in its eyes faded. David blinked. Did we just win? Celeria exhaled. No, we just survived the test. The stone door finished opening behind them, revealing a narrow corridor filled with ancient light. David looked at her, impressed. You saved us. She looked down at her glowing hands. No, we did. I just stopped running from myself. As they walked into the next chamber, a deeper voice echoed from the walls. The next trial begins now. David groaned. I liked it better when ruins didn't talk. The truth buried in stone. The corridor stretched out like a throat of light. Its walls pulsed gently with soft blue veins, almost like the ruins were alive, breathing. Celeria walked slowly, her steps light, her glowing hands brushing against the ancient carvings. David followed behind, quiet but alert. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. Something was happening to her, and he knew this was her moment. As they moved deeper, the air thickened. It felt like walking through memory itself. Celeria paused in front of a giant wall covered in unfamiliar symbols. But when she touched it, the wall shimmered and changed. The symbols rearranged into a glowing doorway. No buttons. No tech. Just pure memory reacting to her. David muttered, "That's either extremely cool or a trap." Celeria didn't laugh. She was staring ahead like she was in a dream. "I've seen this place," she whispered. "In my sleep, since I was a child." The doorway opened. Inside was a circular chamber. At its center stood a single black stone tablet floating in the air. Around it, old alien projectors lit up, showing ghostly recordings of the past. Celeria stepped closer, trembling. And then, it began. The chamber darkened. A figure appeared in the light, a tall woman with glowing lines on her arms, just like Celeria. Her face was calm, wise, and familiar. "Mother," Celeria whispered in shock. "That's my real mother." David blinked. "Wait. Real?" Celeria's voice was shaking. "The woman who raised me was never kind. She always said I was adopted during a disaster, that I was a mistake they took in." The ghostly woman in the vision spoke in an old language, but Celeria understood every word. "To my daughter. If you are seeing this, it means the world has feared you as it feared me. But do not believe their lies. You are not a curse. You are the final key." Tears welled up in Celeria's eyes. Her real mother continued, her voice full of strength and sorrow. "Our bloodline carries the spark of balance. It was never meant to destroy, only to calm the storm between worlds. You were born in war, but shaped for peace." Another image appeared. Celeria as a baby, wrapped in glowing cloth, hidden in a temple while chaos raged outside. Soldiers dragged her mother away, shouting about her dangerous power. Then, silence. Celeria fell to her knees. All this time, they lied to me. They stole me from her, erased my name, turned me into a warning. David walked over and placed a hand on her shoulder. "They didn't break you. You're still standing." Celeria's energy flared again, not wild, not out of control, awake, alive, balanced. The floating black tablet at the center began to spin slowly, reacting to her presence. The projectors showed one last vision, her ancestors standing in front of the Galactic Council, pleading for the spark bearers to be protected. But fear won. The Council outlawed them, hunted them. They survived, by vanishing. Now only one remained. Celeria. The eye, chamber filled with that same whispering voice again, the one they had heard before, but now it spoke clearly. The truth has waited and for her return. The black tablet stopped spinning and floated toward her, lowering gently into her hands. As soon as she touched it, it lit up with golden light. She gasped. It's a memory core, with my people's true history inside. David smiled. Then we take it. Show the galaxy who you really are. She looked at him, voice trembling. They'll try to stop me. My own people might turn on me again. He gave a small grin. Then let them. You're not alone this time. Celeria held the memory core to her chest. Her past, her truth. Finally, in her hands. No longer lost, no longer hidden. The chamber rumbled softly, accepting her. But just as they turned to leave, a sharp metallic echo cut through the air. Boots, armored ones. From the shadows stepped 3 alien figures in dark robes, their faces hidden, their weapons raised. You weren't supposed to find this, one of them said coldly. You were supposed to die in the ruins. David stepped forward, drawing his blaster. Well, she didn't. Celeria narrowed her eyes. She had run from enemies before. Not anymore. From the edge, she rose. The air grew tense. 3 shadowed figures blocked the exit, weapons glowing with cold light. Behind them, the path to the surface. Behind Celeria and David, only darkness, stone, and the truth she had just uncovered. You were warned, one of the attackers hissed. The spark is forbidden. That history must stay buried. Celeria didn't move. Her fingers tightened around the glowing memory core. The light pulsed in her chest like a second heartbeat. I won't run this time, she said calmly. David stood beside her, blaster raised. I suggest you back off. She's not the same girl who came into these ruins. One of the attackers laughed. She's still a failure, just a frightened outcast clinging to forgotten stories. No, Celeria said. Her voice echoed. Louder, stronger. I was broken because you made me believe I was. You took my family. You twisted my past. You tried to silence me. But now, she raised her glowing hands. I remember everything. The chamber lit up like a storm. Blue-white energy surged through her body, but this time it didn't rage or burn wild. It flowed like water, clear and controlled. A beautiful glow poured from her skin, painting the walls with ancient symbols long dead. David stepped back, shielding his eyes. You're glowing like a star. The attackers panicked. One fired. The blast never hit. Celeria raised one hand, and the bolt dissolved midair, calmly, like a breeze touching a flame. Then she stepped forward. Each step echoed with power. The attackers backed away, shields raised, shouting commands. But they were too late. Celeria whispered a word in the ancient tongue of the spark bearers. The ground beneath the attackers lit up, symbols pulsing bright. A wave of force lifted them off their feet and sent them crashing into the far wall. They didn't move again. David whistled. Remind me never to get on your bad side. Celeria turned to him, smiling. But it was different now. Not shy, not broken. It was the smile of someone who finally knew who she was. It's over, she said. No, David replied. It's just beginning. They climbed back toward the surface. The ruins were no longer cold and quiet. As they walked, the walls hummed gently, welcoming her back. The place had accepted her. She had become part of its story. At the top, sunlight poured through broken stone arches. Celeria stepped outside and paused. This was the same edge she stood on days ago. The place she had almost jumped. The place where her story nearly ended. Now it felt small. David walked beside her. You ready? She held the memory core tightly. I have to go back. My people need to know the truth. They might not believe you, he warned. Then I'll show them, she said. I'm not afraid anymore. She turned to him, her voice quiet. Thank you, he smiled. For what? For saying the right words when I was about to disappear. David shrugged. That's what friends do. Besides, You're the first alien to stop a death bot with poetry and light. She laughed. Softly. You didn't do bad either, human. Together, they walked away from the tower, toward the stars. Weeks later, the capital city of Zalaria's people trembled as the broadcast went live. Across planets, screens flickered on. The forbidden ruins appeared. Zalaria's face filled the sky. She spoke simply, calmly. I am Zalaria of the Spark. I was called. A danger, a mistake, a curse. But I found the truth buried in your lies. She raised the memory core. It glowed brightly. My power was never meant to destroy. It was meant to heal, unite, and protect. On worlds far and wide, spark-bearers hiding in fear lifted their heads. Children with glowing hands watched in awe. Mothers wept. Leaders cursed. But the truth was out. She finished the broadcast with words not meant to inspire fear but hope. To those who feel broken, you're not. To those standing on the edge, step back. You are not alone. And across the galaxy, the whisper spread. The girl who once stood at the edge, now stood at the center of change.